So if you have any questions, please, post your question in that chat box. And if we're able to, we will go ahead and take questions as we go through. So, without further ado, welcome to week 4, right? Week 4 of the Wellness Check-In. My name is Saki Litov, and my partner in crime is, at least on my screen below me, which is Cara Lynn. It's been fun because, Cara, I think you'll echo this. One of the biggest takeaways for me, which has been as much of a learning curve as anything, has been organizing across time zones. It's been crazy. So, where I am, it's afternoon, 5 o'clock. Hala, our guest, is at eight o'clock, and Cara lives in the future. So it is tomorrow morning for us. It's 10 by you, right? Cara. Oh, you're on. We can't hear you. We lost your volume. Nope, not yet. So while Cara's working on that, I am a patient advocate. I help folks in the U.S. who are struggling with our complex healthcare system kind of navigate the system. Cara is a mental health advocate and is a community health worker with a lot of experience helping also kind of guide people through bettering their lives. And this was really Cara's idea to really create a place where people can come and get rid of some of the negativity that I think we're all surrounded by now with, the COVID-19 stuff that is happening globally. Cara, is your sound back on? No, we still can't hear you. So if you could go to the next slide. We're going to do, our guest today is Haleh Olson, and I have a great, awesome introduction. Inspired by her background in human biology and her passion for cooking, Haleh offers a refreshing approach through the healing power of food. Known for her warmth and nutritional expertise, and I feel blessed that Haleh is someone I consider a friend. And believes that everybody is unique, and she tailors her nutritional approach to her clients' personal goals and comfort levels. And so Haleh will be talking with us today about nutrition, food, and diet, and lots more. How was that, Haleh? We can't hear you. Weird. Try your sound, Haleh. We can't hear you. No sound. Am I the only one without sound? Okay, hang on.
And thank you. I think Rana said she can hear us too. I think
And
if anybody else
now
can
I
hear
got
us,
it. I got it. Somehow I had the nightmare that you had earlier, Haleh, of my headset switching. So now I hear you.
thank you.
All right, sorry about that. Sorry, Cara. So I'm
It's
just chatting on, and thinking, wow, this is a one-man show. So, Cara, do you want to go to the next slide?
Yeah, yep, not a problem. Hello, did you want to introduce yourself?
Well, let's do it.
Thank
We're
you.
going to do the recap, and then let's let her introduce herself.
Okay, no worries. All right. So there, you can hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So just to recap what we have been covering in the last few weeks. Week 1 was mindset. Week 2 were the foundations, sleep, diet, exercise, and that additional one, should you be interested, of prayer or meditation and week 3, exercise and movement, which we had David Lindsay join us for. All of those videos, the information, and the Healthy Habits challenges are on our Facebook group. Right, so we'll go back to Haleh.
So, Haleh,
Thank you.
yeah, please take it
No,
away.
thank you, Saki. Thank you, Kara. Thank you, Saki, for such a good and lovely and warm introduction. I definitely am blushed and I'm very pleased and honored to be here. And hi to everybody else. A little bit of background, and I think through this conversation, I would answer as much as I can. And then, of course, I'll make myself available for any additional pieces. But I learned for the past, I would say 15 years of being in my field, the first question I like to tell or answer for individuals is, what's a nutritionist? Because there's a very wide and variety of definitions that gets attached. So I like to not define it as what the textbook is, but what I actually got to gather in the past couple of decades of my life. Um, and bringing all the information, education, and patient care, and making myself a different kind of nutritionist. So this kind of path was kind of by accident, but also very personal for me, in a sense that my family has a long history of illnesses, and that just kind of brought me to the point of, okay, I really want to do something that would be not only helping others, changing the quality of life, but also be able to cater it to myself. And I think that's where I came to be. Being a nutritionist in a short sense talks about food, but I like to think that through my human connections, I learned so much from my clients and just the daily day-to-day interactions that not only I approach from food, and that's why I was so excited to be a part of this panel and having a talk, is we're such a multi-dimension individual that food and what we eat is just one part of it. But because I see the body as a human instrument, you can't have a guitar or sitar or a harp with one string. So nutrition is one of the pillars that I like to kind of give you a little bit of background in a very general sense, something that would fit into what we're going through right now and what you would expect from your body, whether you live on planet Earth or somebody takes you to the moon. So I'm hoping today would be a multi-dimension, but it's pretty general. And I kind of cited in my notes, what I say today is kind of like a basic baseline. Each individual is a little bit unique, but that's what is really interesting to me. I specialize in human metabolism with a background in genetics, and I had an opportunity of working with Saki for multiple different reasons as far as brain health, and my practice usually is in cardiovascular, diabetes, and anything that would be metabolic related. So all that coming together today, I have cooked up a little bit of a story that I'm hoping that everyone goes home with a little bit of something, no pun intended, food in their basket of knowledge.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you. So before we get started, just a quick survey, and I think we have the ability to show hands, don't we, Saki?
Yes, we do. I don't know
So
that. Yeah.
No?
No. We definitely do. I don't know that people know how, but you can ask.
That's okay. So just some thoughts to consider, I guess, if we don't know how to raise hands. But how many of you have been hydrating each morning? So as you know, the body is quite dehydrated after 5, 6, 7, 8 hours sleep. How many of you have been logging, journaling? So in week 2,
Rhonda's hand went up, just so you know, for the hydration.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
And
Nice
so
work,
did
Rhonda.
Ian. And
So
you
did
count
mine.
me in.
Logging and journaling. I think that was week 2, our challenge in week 2, Saki.
Yep.
Yep. So that was around answering those 3 questions. Where are you now? Where do you want to be, and what needs to change? And moving daily. So last week we discussed exercise and movement, and the challenge was to walk. I think we set that challenge. But yeah, so we'll move forward. We've done our recap. Haleh's whiteboard. I'm going to stop screen sharing now, Haleh, so that you can take over.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So I decided to be a little bit creative. One, because it's 8 p.m. my time. And two, because maybe I just don't know how else to do it to make it interactive. I wanted to share the screen, but I wanted to raise my hand and say, I am definitely not Picasso and I'm really terrible at drawing. So I'm hoping that as you're listening to my important material, it also brings you some laughter, as I'm probably going to struggle like a elementary or maybe kindergartner to draw this. But if you were interested, let me know. I was talking to Kara and Saki how to make it a little bit more visual. I usually am in front of my clients and I draw this, so it turns out much better. If I'm shaky, just listen to my words. And I don't know if it's appropriate. I know we have a time for Q&As, but if you're just really burning to ask a question, maybe write it down in a chat or just make sure that you don't forget. And I'll definitely want to come back and respond to that.
And I'll go through. I've got the chat box open so I can address anybody's questions as they come up.
Thank you, Saki. Thank you. So one part of that is today, I wanted to kind of debunk or maybe educate us with the notion that I hear a lot and we talk about a lot. In the world of nutrition, one of the most important aspects is what's metabolism? I want to boost my metabolism. I want to support my metabolism. My metabolism supports something else. The word metabolism is such a big and powerful thing. And I'm not quite sure if any of us, even me going through all the years of schooling, is just, I don't even know before then what I knew it was. So I like to kind of open that. And with that, what I mean is I like to actually show your metabolism to you. Again, as I said at the beginning, this is something that varies based on I'm taking a thyroid medication, I'm into intermittent fasting, I really don't have an appetite, I really have an appetite. But this is the blueprint that every child is actually born with. As we kind of grow through our life, different upbringing patterns, environment, conditions kind of tweak this pattern. But this is the tone that our body, or the what I like it to call it, the strings of our life as far as the human metabolism works. But for our reference point, when I use the word metabolism, what I'm referring today is the ability of body to grab that food that you have put in it and turn it into a usable fuel. A lot of time, and actually we had this conversation with Saki and Kara, a lot of times we kind of think about food as nourishment and nutrition. And Saki brought a really interesting point up. It's like, I think when I'm eating, a really tasty piece of pastry, I'm being nourished. And I said, you're absolutely correct. But not
I'm nourished by ice cream, frankly.
I believe you. But today, what I like to actually define that, because there's so many, I always tell people, even if it's the best food in front of you, if you're really unhappy eating it, that's not nourishment. But for our purpose today, nourishment, I'll bring it to the numbers game and say, what can actually get from your stomach into your intestine, actually into your bloodstream? The definition of nourishment to the very biological, pretty geeky level. But I'm not going to quiz you on any of those things. With that being said, I'm going to tell you a story of a dance named cha-cha. And the reason, and I'm terrible at dances, but I feel like this is how cha-cha is, because this is not tango, this is not salsa. It's a 2-step forward, couple of step backs. It's a relationship between two of our most important hormones. And the reason I picked this topic, I'll give you a little side note, is how these two hormones dance together actually determines our body's ability to have money in its bank. Particularly in the past 6 weeks, one of the biggest questions I get, and I get it quite a bit, is how can I support my immunity? I'll be happy to kind of share that. That's a completely different segment. But for nourishment, health, and well-being, fuller your bank account is, more money you have to spend on supporting your body. And that's why I bring this dance to you. Better we understand it, you know that more you have taken from the food that you have given yourself, and you have more to deal with. With that understood, or with that said, because understanding it, I think it took me 18 years to just kind of get comfortable with it, and another 15 years to practice it. So I'm going to share my whiteboard, and I'm going to do my best job to be able to demonstrate this without messing it up. Just know that it will be funny. We have two axes, one going horizontally, representing our time. And this part of it is AM. And this part of it, I would call it 11 to 12. So like midnight time. So this is the representative of what you see. On the vertical axis, we have two dancing hormones. Sorry, as I said, I can't draw a straight line and try writing of a stylist.
That's pretty good.
Thank you. Just don't grade me on this. The first hormone is called cortisol. For your purposes, cortisol is one of the hormones that is produced out of our adrenal gland or our stress gland. You don't need to know much about it. Just know that this hormone is the most expensive and strongest hormone that we produce. It really runs the body. It doesn't do anything immediately, but its actions, it's kind of like a friend that you have. There's not a bad friend, but every time it shows up in a party and drinks too much, it really changes the notion of the party. So we like our friend, but we really want to make sure that it doesn't get rowdy. Insulin, naturally, when we wake up, and when I said AM, regardless of who you are and how your body is, your body likes to wake up before you wake up. Sometimes it lines up, sometimes it doesn't. So let's pretend, or not pretend, let's keep in mind that this is around 5 or 6 a.m. So it might line up with the time that you're naturally awakened. It might be a couple of hours. But from that point, cortisol starts moving its hand. And at that point in the day, it has the strongest and highest production. The benefit of this hormone being in our body overnight is it puts everyone and every organ system in sleep and help them repair and restore. So you do want it to be at the higher end of its production in the morning. That means everybody got to restore and reset. But it's morning time, action time. When we wake up, we have the highest production, but we're really hoping to see this trend. This is a happy trend. And I always say, think of it as a smile. That's what you want to see. Production is high throughout the day. It takes a little dip. And as the night goes on, and it actually moves to the same level, but this is the view that you want to see. I'll put a C for cortisol because trying to write this down here is impossible. Second hormone, as I said, it's a cha-cha, so it always takes two, is our insulin. I have gotten my first and second masters on this degree, and I still like to do a PhD if I could. It's just right now, it's a little too much. It's been 10, 12 years that I haven't been, 12 years that I haven't been in school, and I haven't been tempted to go back yet. However, insulin and I are really best friends because insulin, first time we hear it, we always think about diabetes. Oh my gosh, what's going on? Insulin plays a role of a chaperone. It's the bouncer. It's the person that when it's present, it allows your cells to open their mouth and eat the food. Without the presence of insulin, food is right outside the door, the cell is starving, no interactions happening. And I would be able to tell you all about it. If you know someone with diabetes or you're interested in knowing type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4, there's many ones that I'll be happy to kind of guide you through. But for time being, the chaperone, the bouncer, the person who is in charge of feeding your cells, first thing in the morning should be really quiet. Because if you've done your homework right, there shouldn't be anything metabolizing in your system. Your metabolism, your GI system, your stomach, esophagus, intestines also should be sleeping and repairing. So it's natural to see it low. However, as we get going, this dance begins. And insulin likes to grow, stay steady, and show a little bit of a decline. It never tanks. I'm not a best drawer, but I want to say that this production gets increased, but towards the end of the day, it doesn't need to be as much. And we're going to call this insulin.
Haleh, can I ask a question just for clarification?
Absolutely.
What is the relationship of insulin to blood sugar?
Thank you for asking that. So that's a tricky question because normally if you have a healthy body, When you have an increase in your blood sugar, you also have an increase your insulin. That means this is the body's going, food is in, blood glucose is high, so let me open the cells and take it in. However, in the cases of diabetes, some drug interactions, you can have a high blood sugar, you can have a high insulin, but the cell, just like a teenager, sits there going, I'm not opening my cell. So that would be insulin resistant.
Got it. Okay. And I didn't mean to derail. I just am curious
No.
to.
So usually you want to see an increase in insulin with the increase in blood sugar. That's the healthy way of, okay, food is in, so let's get it into the cell. But they kind of have a close relationship. That's more of a tango dancing together. So when we're looking at this, so why is this important? Why am I drawing it? Why am I taking everybody's time talking about this? Many, many times if you look at this, you realize these two hormones work opposite shifts. Many of us live in a state that as much as we try to practice mindfulness and calmness, we get involved in actions that potentially keep our cortisol, and I'm going to show this in pink, does this. This is a really bad factor. And actually, really, I loved being on this panel because with all the things that you're working through, there is so many methods that we reset ourselves. We call it mindfulness. Our metabolism is actually one of those biggest things that require mindfulness, because when we are constantly in and out of internally or externally, like I actually did gardening and my whole entire back, even though I use sunscreen, is burnt. So I have a physical inflammation and cortisol producing. But there would be another time that my mind is really busy. It's uncertain times. So-and-so can't work. The other person's child is sick. So whether that stressor is internal or external, it can really affect the movement of the cortisol. Therefore, remember I said cortisol is such a strong hormone. Every time it's out of balance, insulin has no choice to do the opposite. If it's high, it will be, sorry, I totally messed it up, but pretend opposite. And I always say this to my clients. If you look at the two straight lines, the green and the red one, it's pretty straightforward. The amount of energy used is like body knows, I need $5 to run this, good to go. But if you look at the pink and yellow one, if you try to stretch it, there is so much more energy goes into chasing, bringing the cortisol down. Now fix the insulin. Where's the blood sugar? That the communication of the body becomes so complex that the energy you were supposed to give to your immune system, the energy that you were supposed to fix this toothache or the dental surgery that you have done, the energy that you needed to kind of get and fix this burn, anything that your body needed, even for your lungs, for your heart, anything else puts on a little standstill because we have this chase of energy. We ended up spending so much, and the body at the end of the day gets really exhausted. One of the patterns I teach, and I call it mindfulness around metabolism. I know I have many colors, but let me know if it gets too overwhelming. Is to teach my clients a couple of mindful checkpoints that help us go back into that green and red zone. Number one, and this is really important, I call it my golden rule. Do you see that cross section? Is when we actually dictate to our body, lower the cortisol, increase the insulin. That means metabolism is engaged. A lot of us wake up, we get busy, do stuff, and somewhere between half an hour, and that's a good one, but somewhere maybe I should say longer than an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, I'm going to grab something. But after I put my kids to school, or right now everybody's home, or after I answer this email, after I do this, then the time that they woke up to the first bite that goes to their body keeps get elongated or stretched. Around that time, insulin is low, cortisol is high. So I learned a phrase that I really love. Break your fast, which is different from breakfast, within 5 to 15 minutes of waking up. And a lot of people are like, I'm not hungry. What are you talking about? This is as small as maybe leaving 4 or 5 nuts, 6 or 7 seeds, or a teaspoon of nut butter or seed butter, something that is fat or protein next to your bed. I grew up, I'm Middle Eastern descent, so I put 2 olives next to my bed. That's perfect. my sister for all this long, she can actually have dairy, and she puts one of those baby bell cheese rings, and she eats half of it. The whole point of this is break the fast. Give this two hormones a notion to break it. This is the most mindful piece of action you can do all day. When you break that fast, your body knows food is coming in, and cortisol naturally knows that it needs to go in. One of the things I'm noticing in the past couple of weeks, individuals are so busy because everybody's home. Sometimes the first time they're eating something, and notice I say eating, not drinking, is at 11 or 12. Then the whole day they're anxious, then their belly hurts, then at the end of the night they eat a ton. All these things is causing your body to think it's in a state of fight or flight. That one step is so important for immune system. The day that you start your day with I call it internal anxiety, even if it's different from mental anxiety, you're taking away from your immune system. You're more susceptible to even a common cold. So break your fast. That's my golden number one. And I know I have passed on some of that information to Saki and Kara, so they will be able to make it. I don't need you to take notes, but listen. Second part of it is this section. I don't know when and how, but we have gotten into the habit of eating lunch as quick as we can. Dinner is going to be amazing. Everybody's going to be home. We're going to bring things together, but I'm busy. I'm in the middle of work, or kids are running around, or I just don't feel like cooking. I'm a party of one. Whatever the thought process is, your metabolism, particularly if you break it fast, between 11:30 to 2 o'clock, I always say we sit in a gold mine. That's about the time that if you have started the fire of your digestive juices by it's like putting a key in a car. The point one is like, you can't start a car unless you touch it or put a key in it. You have to ignite the engine. You've done it, now your engine is on. A lot of us skip lunch. Actually, I had a client today that she's like, I really wanted to eat, but I had a great snack at nighttime. I'm like, thank you for it, but you have no idea what you had done. Take advantage of your lunch. Make it big, make it count. And again, as I said, I can personalize these things, but make it count. If you were to skip a meal, please, for the love of God, don't let it be your lunch. You're going to pay for this. It's very big. So lunch like a king. Here's a little funny thing that happens around this time. Metabolism, which your insulin, kind of looks to the left, looks to the right, and it's usually around 3 or 4 p.m. Right exact time when our virtual happy hours begin. The body goes, I don't want a lot of things, but I'm beginning to be hungry, so let's snack. Around that same time, it's having another thought. It goes, I've been up since 5 o'clock. It's been too long for me to go at this rate. I'm going to shut down 40% of my metabolism, meaning, I will send some of my people home. What I say it in kind of such a joking way, because there is no system. I have studied a lot of different human biology systems. We don't have a tool. We don't have any notion of stopping body's transition. It's kind of like your furnace was working. It's in the middle of the winter. You live in Michigan. And all of a sudden, your furnace, instead of working full, 40% of its engine, or that you can see how well I know, it's like part of it stops working. The house or everything else starts to get cool. So as our body. People that wait to eat their meal, the best meal at dinner time, have one major problem. After 5 or 6, 40% of what they put in their body has two-faced. And I'm very blunt about it because I work with kids for many, many times. You're lucky if you poop it out. Otherwise, it actually goes into storage, turn into a fat that is really hard to break. So I usually tell people, if
Can
you
you
have gotten
repeat that?
Yes, absolutely. I believe this is the part. So the food that doesn't get processed in our body, I mentioned, if we're waiting for dinner to be our major and biggest meal, what happens to that is about 40% of that food has two fates. Either we move it in our bowels and take it out, or because the body doesn't know what to do, it also doesn't have the energy, it puts it in the hardest form of fat and store it away. Because in body's mind, you're going to use this some other time, except it's kind of like, if you had a office work around Christmas time and you went to someone at 4:54 and that person looks at you and you walk in with a stash of paper this big and all needs to be read and signed, that person is going to be like, yeah, I totally read it over here. And tomorrow it piles up. Our body doesn't know what to do with it because it's designed to have at least 60 to 70% of its energy before that time. It doesn't want, it's kind of like you're depositing money in your account at 8 p.m. for $1 million, except when you go home and check your account, you notice that only $600,000 is in there. You have lost $400,000 and nobody knows where it is. That's exactly what happens. So, but the downside is people are like, okay, so I lost it. What's the big deal? It doesn't get stored as something that can be broken down. It's usually stored in a very tough lipid or fat form that getting rid of it, it's hard. And the best place that usually the body likes to put it is right in our mix section. It's like, that's a perfect place. So visceral fat.
I guess I'm doing that regularly. I think that's
well,
where,
Saki, you and I need to talk about
yeah. So there was actually a question for clarification, just in terms of the reduced metabolism in the afternoon. What you were just describing, does that have any relation to whether or not somebody's eaten lunch?
So, no. This is the body's mechanism due to the fact that it has been up for that long. If you have had your lunch, your bank account, remember if you owed someone, when we are eating breakfast, eating lunch, by 3 or 4, your bank account is a little bit full. It's not empty, but the body would do that drop in metabolism regardless. That's why it's an important piece.
Okay, and so for clarification again, so if I think what I heard you say is that if you eat a good solid lunch, which is when our metabolism is at its peak and best, then in the afternoon when the metabolism is naturally dropping off anyway, we'll have had that major meal of the day. So regardless of how we eat, we should be less hungry if you had a good lunch. If you didn't have a good lunch, you're going to eat a big dinner, and you're eating it at the time when 40% of it is just going to go to the midsection.
Absolutely. So you said it correct. Another way that I can say it is, and I haven't got to that piece. I apologize. I get too excited about this piece. Some of us experience that we eat our dinner, we go for a second serving, but then we eat all the way with the little snacks all the way to dinner time. So this drop, if it happens, if you didn't have lunch, your bank account is empty. I always say you owe your body $100 per day. So if you cannot, sorry, that's it's not a Bitcoin, by the way. It's a dollar sign. So that's exactly what you said. The downside becomes, now you get to dinner, you're ravenous, and your body's like, everything you're putting it, 40% of it that your body dumps, but then that causes you, because the body's so determined, by midnight, I'm going to fuel my tank. We notice and experience a lot of evening and afternoon eating. So that's where it gets us. But people that actually eat a good breakfast, and I will kind of describe, it's not, I don't need you to go eat Alfredo fettuccine. A good lunch is, salads are phenomenal, but what's in your salad? I would like a more of a what traditional Western dinner look like. I want that to be for lunch. And I fully know I work and I'm sometimes we have 10 minutes, but that's what I'm saying, working towards a lifestyle, because these points that I'm talking about, I keep bringing you back. It's not because you want to lose weight. Each time you focus on these pieces, it's a mindful reset for your metabolism. Your body actually gets a message of, oh, you're thinking for it, not taking away from it. Each time, even if you miss the morning, grab the lunch. If you forgot the lunch, I always tell people, if you really looked at your total intake and you had a bagel for breakfast and a half a salad or half a cup of soup, around 3 or 4, I need you to have a snack. And this snack, if you haven't eaten anything all day, it better be a snack, not a protein bar. Maybe bring a couple of slices of turkey. If you're vegan or vegetarian, bring your bean spread and eat it with half substance. And I can help individuals with that question. It's just it's kind of like checking time before the bank closes. What have I done? Have I done well by my body? Has it had fuel? Or am I going to eat through the night? And a lot of people are really good. They sleep with their hunger and ravenousness. They feel like if I go to bed and I'm hungry, this must be a good sign. It's a terrible sign. I can almost guarantee you with confidence that diabetes is going to be your best friend, but that would be one issue. Many other organ systems stops working.
So,
So
just another clarification. So I heard you say that you would recommend against a protein bar, which sounds like that you don't see then a protein bar as substantial.
correct. And it could be my bias, not to poo-poo a protein bar. A protein bar is not a food. It's a quick, protein bars and protein shakes have been designed for a purpose. It's kind of like Gatorade. If you're not working like an athlete, I don't need you to drink Gatorade. I actually don't want you to drink Gatorade, period. But protein bars and protein shakes are meant to be. I had a client that she would travel between Seattle to north part of California on regular basis. I actually asked her to have a couple of protein powders and protein bars in her car because she couldn't always get to stop and have a meaningful food. So for emergency stacks and in between meals, they're great, but I know a quite considerable individuals that they make that a meal, and that's really not designed to be what we want. So that's why, but I have to say, I apologize, not knowing my background. I don't poo-poo any food, but there's a time and place in order to eat that.
Totally, totally. And so one other clarification somebody had asked is back to breakfast and the breaking the fast. So I'm going to try to reiterate what I heard you say. So as I understood it, your comment is to break the fast, meaning when you wake up, you should put something in your mouth. But your preference is that it's something with protein or fat, a small amount, but right away if possible. Somebody was asking, does coffee count?
Really good question, and actually two-headed question. So this number one is breaking the fast, and I usually say, here's where the breakfast is. So if you're not a breakfast eater or you don't have time to get to the lunch, break the fast. Break the fast is something very tiny. Breakfast actually it's a meal. It has more components. And here's the part. I said solid food. So a lot of individuals and a lot of my clients have protein shakes or coffee. In particular, when it comes to caffeinated beverages, here's the little kicker. When you first in the morning, consume something with caffeine in it, tea or coffee, what you do is you actually support and keep the cortisol steadily high. Caffeine is an appetite suppressant, and every time it's in your system, it spikes a little bit of a cortisol. If it's in the middle of the day, I don't really mind it, but individuals, and actually I have to say, one of my family members is notorious. She nurses her coffee cup and she keeps filling it up. So she can drink a pot till noon, and she puts cream in it, and right now with the MCT oil, she puts a lot of things in it. But the truth of the matter is, the answer is no, particularly if it's caffeine. Does that mean don't have your coffee? That's not correct. I say don't confuse your coffee with your solid meal.
Fair enough.
And it has taken me, and this person that sits here and talks with confidence, you had to see me during my presentations and my thesis. So this is a lifetime of experience sitting. Day one, when I graduated, I didn't know that. And I still find things. So don't let my confidence in giving you this fool you. There are multiple days that I have to reset. Sometimes I always break my fast, but sometimes I catch myself at lunchtime and I raise my hand and say, there's many skeletons in my closet, but I reset. It's not about right now. You can kind of fix this as long as you want.
Actually, I'm doing a program now where they commented about this idea that you never ruin your day. Let's say, midday you have a muffin and you know you shouldn't have it. Doesn't mean the rest of the day is ruined. You can just reset at that point, and that's your choice.
I am an avid believer that if we were taught that from in elementary, I think we would have had a very different relationship with food. So, but that's the part. There's so many pieces. This photo, and I just to kind of reiterate, this is not a complete photo. there's so many pieces. Like I bring something here, I bring something here. But right now for us, 1, 2, 3, and then what I would put is a 4. I never, ever want anyone skip dinner. And trust me, I tried, I trained triathlons, Tough Mudders, I talked to so many people before intermittent fasting was a thing. I had to learn about it. So this is in no way putting someone outside the category, but skipping dinner is not the way that I want people to go. So just back to the point 3, then I said it. I actually had this conversation at my noon time with a client, and she said, I was really hungry. I was really full by dinner time, but I pushed myself. And I said, you don't ever have to push yourself to have a meal. Have a smaller portion. If you got up, you broke your fast, then you had a breakfast, then you had a lunch. At 3 o'clock, you checked in and you were a little bit hungry. Instead of being ravenous at dinner time, grab the snack. You have had 4 checking times. Your blood sugar is tip top. So if you get to the dinner plate and you really want to eat the size of your, palm of your hand, I'm right there with you. But you cannot send the body going to bed. And I worked with a lot of eating disorder clients at the beginning of my career. The psychological part of I'm starving, but please fall asleep causes major irreversible brain damage. Do I mean if you experience that, you're completely without hope? No, I'm asking you to not continue it, to try to find ways that you can go about it. I actually stopped after 7 years working with eating disorders because what they're going against is really, really hard. I couldn't even just see their pain. So, but the part is, skipping any meal is bad. Skipping lunch is in particular terrible. Dinner, if you don't want to eat it, eat a smaller portion. But if you haven't eaten all day, I also don't want you to we're not squirrels. We don't pack our nuts and eat it all at once.
Speak for yourself.
Nighttime, maybe I should have, correct. I collect my baked goods and I look at them. I wish I had a sweet tooth. But I love baking and I can't eat them just because they don't really taste that great. But give me savory and we're all in.
So Haleh, can you tie everything up for us in a bow?
Yes. So this is the part. Remember when we started, I said your metabolism is like a musical instrument. And I have 4 points that I like you to think about. Think about as mindfulness, mindful rescue to the metabolism. And the whole goal of this that you're doing is preserving precious cash, which is nutrition and nutrients. This helps your body extract the nutrients out of the food. The first part of it is break your fast within 5 or 15 minutes of waking up time. Eat something, put something in your bedside. And I'm looking at mine that you can just, as soon as one eye opens and before the feet touch the ground, put something in your mouth. Don't worry, you can always brush your teeth. Second part of it is take advantage of the time that you're home right now. And if you're not, make a valuable assessment around your lunchtime. Your lunch should be as great as dinners. It should be super grand. Don't skip it. This is where your metabolism is. The fire, 98%. This is something that I learned in Florida through one of the points. 98% of what you put in your body turns into energy between that 11:30 to 2 o'clock. Why wouldn't we take advantage of it? Take advantage of it, feed your body. Assess around 3 or 4, really check. Think of it as your bank account. How have I eaten? Do I need food? Am I doing okay? If you're good, kind of move to the next side. But if not, this is another mindful place. Bring that cortisol down. Teach your body to use this energy. And when you get to the dinner, please, please, please don't make it your biggest meal. Have it, make it present, but teach yourself the benefit of when you get to dinner, you have self-hunger, but you're not ravenous. All this movement not only helps your body get the energy in, it really helps your whole entire biochemistry of the body, from the mind to focus to attention, heart rate, lung, breathing, anxiety, depression. I can name every single hormone gets or function in your body gets kind of responded or reassessed by this. And one thing that I want to leave it, I didn't talk about it, but hydrate throughout the day. Quite the contrary, if you drink a bucket of water in the morning, it doesn't fit through the day. think of it as these stops, this 4 stops, planting a seed, water it throughout the day.
That's great.
And with that,
And
go
well,
ahead.
and so you're not done. We can't let you off so quickly, but
No, I was saying I'm going to stop talking.
so it's an interesting way to wrap up, but it's another whole conversation. But I want to honor the fact that I'm sure everybody is going to be thinking this idea that changing dinner from being the main meal to a minor meal is a cultural change. And that's a whole other conversation. But I know that as a parent, I can't even imagine having had lunch as the main meal because that's the kids aren't home, right? And we prepare dinners for the family.
And I love that you brought it up. So there's two things that I separate. That's why I said never skip it. So many of my families, if each individual was well fed, the whole concept of dinner actually, when it started, what's it called, culturally, was a point of connection. That's the time everybody's done with work. So don't, how wonderful. If you have traveled to Spain, and I got the privilege of doing that, people actually, it's not about food is present, but it's about the connection they make. They sit, they talk. I think culturally in a Western culture, or I should say urbanized culture, what I see is we mistake the quantity of food with the need for connection. And I actually talk to clients. So don't ever, I would like dinners to be long and I want it to be super involved. But if you notice, if you're not talking because you're shoveling food in your mouth, something has gone on. Make it about connection. Make multiple different foods. But how wonderful would it be that the time is more spent communicating, kind of like having a friend or group of people that you like over, and not be worried about, I have never filled my tank, must eat, and then go into a food coma. I promise 9 out of 10 of us experience eating a heavy dinner. There is no presence of mind to have a meaningful conversation. We're all exhausted. So
Right.
it is true, but I would say family time is so different from dinner time. They could be coinciding, but hopefully you emphasize on the being together and not being too hungry.
That's
This is the
awesome.
ideal world. As I said, I have to actually set it. This is 10 minutes to 9, and I will be telling you, I actually told my partner when he's done, I said, let's eat together at 9:30. But in the preparation, we actually grab something at 6:30, something small, so that none of us is running
Right.
ravenous.
Ravenous, hungry. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. So that's awesome. Cara, Hala, do you want to stop the share and we'll go
Yes.
over to the Healthy Habits Challenge?
Awesome. Thank you, Hala. I absolutely love what you said about that connection. Let me see if you get my screen.
Yep, we got you.
Yep, fantastic. But I love what you said about connection at mealtime, that dinner is not supposed to be about sitting there with a smorgasbord of food and shoveling it into your mouth. So much that there's no communication going on, because that leads into the challenge for this week. And I know that you can see the side of my head, but I've got 3 or 4 screens at the moment, so I'm going to read it from this one. But the challenge for this week is to eat mindfully. So for the next week, stash your mobile phone in your purse, pocket, or drawer while you are eating. When you ditch the distracting devices, you can actually focus on savoring your food and enjoying your mealtime companions. So that goes really nicely with what you've shared with us. Thank you. Another tip that people could use, should they feel interested, is to keep a food journal. It's a great way to sort of track what you're putting into your body at what times, and I think it will fit in nicely with what Hala has shared with us today around, what are we eating, when are we eating, and sort of recognizing those patterns with the cortisone and the insulin. So I think it goes really well. But
Can I
keep a
add
food
something really
journal.
quick about the journal?
Mm-hmm.
The for anybody who is interested in technology, I know Cara and I have this back and forth about how we journal. And we were talking before the show about this thing that she uses called paper, I think. So, but I'm a big fan of technology, and I know that there's for anybody who it's helpful with, there's some really great apps available that make it so easy to track your food. And I've been using something for years called MyFitnessPal, which is just a personal favorite for mine because you can scan pretty much any product or put in a meal and it'll give you the breakdown of calories and nutrients. And it's just, it makes tracking your food so much easier.
It is a really good app. It is something that I have used, but I am still very much into my paper and very much into all of my post-it notes. You're never going to get rid of them, Saki.
Can I add one piece from someone who spend a lot of time? So I actually like both of it. I would add one piece. If you're not going to remember and using electronic factor is helpful, bring it about awareness. And I like that MyFitnessPal gives you macronutrients and calories, but make it as that you can go back and see what you ate. Start with that point. Mm-hmm. However, the studies showed when you actually hold the pen, the connection between your fingers and jotting things down, it's a therapeutic factor and it actually increases the accountability. So I have to give both of you guys a piece, but there is something, that's why letter writing was such a therapeutic pen pals.
This is the same thing.
Saki.
This is the same thing.
Saki, you nailed it, particularly in the days that we are so busy. Anything that reassures our ability to reflect and look at something would be important. But I wanted to say both of you guys win. I've seen both of it in practice.
Excellent. Fantastic. So I guess, oh, no, it's not working. There we go. So food for thought. Our quote for this week is one cannot think well, love well, sleep well, if not has dined, not dined. That doesn't make sense, does it?
It's all right, but we get the point.
If one has not
dined well.
And a big thank you to everybody for participating. Haleh, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been fantastic to have you, and I've definitely taken some great points away from what you've said, and I'll be making some little changes myself. And I guess if there is nothing else to be said, we can lead into, questions, comments, feedback.
So I wanted to share too, Haleh, that I always feel like I learned so much from you, even in how to rethink about the things that I'm already doing. And I think that's my big takeaway today is to reframe a lot of the things that I know I'm already doing in a different way. And so I know everybody's going to have their focus in a different place. I think for me, it's going to be that afternoon, evening piece, which I'm now going to look at differently and really kind of treat my lunch differently. So thank you.
I'm really glad. Of course, I'm very honored. It's really hard. Remember, I always put myself, we all have been eating for as long as we've been alive. So how honored I feel, or how great it is that I can bring a new perspective to it. Again, I would remind you that this is what we discussed today, and I was actually telling myself how silly it is. This is something I discuss. I break each of these points into a whole different sessions. There's so many lovely topics to be had. So see it as a whole picture. And I actually, in my notes, I always say, see it as a big blueprint and see where it fits in. I have great individuals that work in graveyard shifts, and none of this fits into it. So what's then? Right. So take what it resonates, but I'm so honored because everybody has been eating. Everybody intimate. Eating is such an intimate act and notion that is so attached to us. So thank you for having me here. Thank you for actually giving me space and time to be able to give some of my craziness to the table. And I would love to answer any questions.
And it doesn't look, I mean, yeah, this is the opportunity for questions. I haven't seen any in the chat. And if somebody raises their hand, I can unmute them. But in the absence of that, I do want to let people know that you can find Haleh at honunutrition.com. It's HONU, and it'll be posted as part of our blog, and it'll be on our Facebook page and LinkedIn as well, and how to be in touch with her. So she's available that way as well. And my personal plug for Haleh is that I there are very few people who I've enjoyed working with as much over the years, and Haleh mentioned it earlier. But Haleh has a gift of being able to really relate and connect with almost anybody, and so I would highly recommend reaching out. So sounds like people are wrapping up. So Cara, any last thoughts?
No, thank you so much again. It's always a pleasure, Saki and Hala. I look forward to potential future collaboration.
So
Thank
thanks,
you.
thanks
Thank you.
guys. Yeah, this was great, and hope to see
Awesome.
people next week. Haleh, thanks so much. Cara, we'll be in touch. Take
No
care,
worries.
all.
Bye, guys.
See
Bye
ya.
bye.